and face me. Okay, you don't have anything on you, right? Okay, nothing in your pockets? Okay, go ahead and face that other wall behind you. I'm just going to search you real quick. Spread your legs. Further. Okay, turn around and face me. No earrings, necklaces, anything like that? Okay. Let's walk out this way. Go straight. Go out that door to your left. Just eat. Just gotta. Control. Frederick PD 1 cooperative male. Go. Don't step out. You know that big blue door right there? So you guys know. Sure. Appreciate the heads up. So it's a... Yeah. That's my risk right there. Yeah. Watching this. Is that all I need? Or is there another one on you? Did you guys change it? No, that's it. Oh. It's been a while. Didn't used to look like that. Have you been gone for a while? That's been neat. Been close, because it was real shortly after I started it. So that was, at one time I was. So I think it was basically speed for think about it. We've been tested for control. Why you saying what? That's still changing. So, I appreciate it. A lot of people get through. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, you can go to our secretary back just a little bit for me.
Unlock the darkest stories and unravel the mysteries with Dark Crime Box. Subscribe now and step inside the world of true crime like never before.
It's early morning inside the Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. The corridors are silent, too silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it knows the weight of the sins it's holding. Behind one of those steel doors, in a small cell lit by a single fluorescent bulb, sits Chris Watts, the man who once called himself a husband, a father, a family man. Now, he's inmate number 674796, serving 5 life sentences for a crime so horrifying, so personal, that even years later, people still can't stop talking about it. The air around him feels stale, suffocating. There's no laughter, no children's voices, no hint of the life he destroyed, just the hum of the light and the sound of his own breathing echoing off the concrete walls. He spends his mornings cleaning his cell, folding and refolding the same set of clothes, his motions robotic, empty. The guards pass by without words. The other inmates, many serving time for violent crimes themselves, glance his way with quiet contempt. In a place filled with murderers, there's still a hierarchy, and Chris Watts sits at the bottom of it. Every day here starts the same. Breakfast at dawn, prayers in solitude, and the weight of guilt that never leaves his chest. He keeps his Bible close, reads from it daily, and writes letters to the very people who will never write back. To the world outside, Chris Watts has vanished. But inside these walls, his name still lingers, spoken in whispers, carried in the air like a ghost that refuses to fade. To truly understand how he ended up here, how a man who smiled for family photos became the face of betrayal, we need to go back. Back before the prison cell, before the orange jumpsuit, before the lies. To a quiet suburban neighborhood in Frederick, Colorado, where everything seemed perfect. Chris Watts and Sean and Watts were the kind of couple people envied. Their social media pages told a story of love and devotion, family trips, birthday parties, and heartfelt captions about their daughters, Bella and Celeste. Sean and, bright and determined, was a thriving mother who adored her family. Chris, calm and reserved, worked in the oil fields and rarely raised his voice. Together, they looked like the American dream. But beneath the smiles and filters, something dark was brewing. Shanann's friends noticed subtle changes. She began to worry more. She confided that Chris seemed distant, detached, no longer the affectionate husband she once knew. His replies grew shorter, his eyes colder. Nights grew quieter in their home, and the warmth between them began to fade. When Shannon became pregnant with their 3rd child, a boy they planned to name Nico, she believed this would bring them closer again. She wanted to fix what was broken. She shared her excitement online, glowing with hope that the man she loved would return to her. But Chris's heart was already gone, captured by someone else, and consumed by something far darker than infidelity. What happened next would shock an entire nation, because within the walls of that seemingly perfect home, love was slowly dying. And soon, the world would learn just how far one man would go to erase his own family for a new beginning. In the days leading up to August 13, 2018, something in Chris changed. Neighbors described him as quiet, emotionless. Sean Ann was on a business trip in Arizona, texting her husband often, sensing the emotional distance between them. Her messages read like someone fighting for her marriage, pleading, hoping, praying. But Chris responded with indifference. Then, the night she came home, everything stopped. In the early hours of that morning, neighbors' cameras caught faint movement. A shadow near the driveway, the outline of a truck backing up to the garage. The next day, Shanann's friend grew worried when she didn't answer her calls. Police arrived to perform a welfare check, and what they found would begin one of the most shocking investigations in modern true crime history. The home was quiet, the children's beds empty. Shanann's phone, purse, and car were still there. But she and the girls were gone. Chris arrived home shortly after the police. His behavior was off, calm, almost rehearsed. He claimed Sean and had taken the kids to a friend's house. But there was something in his eyes, something hollow. The neighbor's surveillance footage later revealed what he hadn't told anyone. That morning, he had loaded something into the back of his work truck. Something large, something heavy. The neighbor, visibly uneasy, told officers that Chris wasn't acting right. He wasn't the same man they knew. His voice was flat, his gestures strange, his nervous laughter too forced. And from that moment, suspicion began to grow. As night fell over the Watts home that day, the neighborhood felt colder, quieter. Police lights flashed against the suburban walls, reflecting the darkness that had finally surfaced. And though no one knew it yet, the monster everyone was looking for wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was standing right there, pretending to help. By the time the sun rose over Frederick, Colorado, the next day, the Watts family's disappearance had already become front-page news. TV crews gathered outside the suburban home, their cameras fixed on the man who seemed all too calm in the middle of chaos. Chris Watts stood on the porch, giving interviews, pleading for his family's safe return. But behind that carefully measured voice was a man trying to hide a storm. He told reporters he had no idea where Sean and the girls were. He smiled nervously, spoke softly, and chose his words with precision. "If they're out there, come back," he said, glancing at the camera. To the public, it looked like grief. To investigators, it looked like performance. His eyes never matched his words. Detectives were already noticing the cracks. When they entered the Watts home, they found no signs of struggle, no forced entry, no chaos, just eerie stillness, like time had stopped mid-breath. Shanann's wedding ring lay on the bedside table. Her phone was still plugged into the charger. Her car sat in the garage, the children's car seats still inside. Everything about the scene screamed something's wrong. And yet, Chris acted like nothing was. The next day, he willingly went in for questioning. He sat calmly, telling officers that he and Sean had an emotional conversation the morning she vanished. He said she'd told him she was leaving with the kids. It was a story that didn't make sense, and detectives knew it. Still, they let him talk, because sometimes, the more a liar speaks, the easier it is to see the truth unravel. Soon, a team from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the FBI joined the case. They began piecing together Shanann's final hours. Her friend, Nicole Atkinson, had been the one who called police when she couldn't reach her. She told them Sean would never disappear without contacting someone. Not with the kids. Not while pregnant. Meanwhile, agents were quietly pulling cell phone behind every smile, behind every perfect picture. Sometimes lies something unthinkable. The Watts family tragedy reminds us how darkness can hide behind ordinary walls, and how evil doesn't always come from strangers. If you found this story haunting, like, share, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box, where we uncover the hidden truths behind the world's darkest crimes. Now I'll leave you with one question. If a person can destroy everything they love for a moment of selfish desire, can they ever truly be human again? Data, text logs, and location pings. They discovered something Chris hadn't told them. He was having an affair. Her name was Nicole Kessinger, a co-worker at Anadarko Petroleum. To the outside world, Chris had painted himself as a loving father. But behind closed doors, he'd been telling Nicole that his marriage was over, that he and Sean were separating. He told her he wanted a new life, a clean slate, and as their relationship deepened, his double life grew darker. In the interrogation room, investigators pressed him. They asked about the affair, about the morning Sean disappeared. Chris denied everything. His answers were cold, calculated. But when they told him they knew about Nicole, his mask began to slip. His body language changed. His breathing grew shallow. The truth was closing in, and for the first time, he looked cornered. As suspicion grew, police searched the oil site where Chris worked, a remote location outside Roggen, Colorado. They brought dogs, drones, and forensic teams. What they would find there in the coming days would shock even the most seasoned investigators. But before that discovery, there was one more move the detectives had to make. On August 15, 2018, just 2 days after the disappearance, Chris sat once again in the interrogation room. This time, the atmosphere was heavier. The detectives weren't there to listen anymore. They were there to confront. They told him Shanann's father believed he was responsible. They told him the story didn't add up. Then came the lie detector test. Chris agreed, confident he could beat it. But when the results came back, the examiner looked him in the eye and said the words that would break the illusion completely. "Chris, you did not pass." He froze. The silence that followed was thick. The investigators leaned in. They told him it was time to be honest, that maybe Shanann had done something terrible, and he had reacted. It was a subtle psychological tactic, but it worked. Chris lowered his head. His voice trembled as he muttered, "I didn't know what to do." It was the first crack in his armor. He claimed that Shanann had strangled their daughters after he told her he wanted a divorce, that he had killed her in a fit of rage. It was a story meant to shift the blame, to make himself look like a man pushed too far. But detectives knew it was another lie. They pressed harder, and soon, the real truth began to surface. The next day, Chris led police to the oil site. There, buried in a shallow grave, was Shanann and Watts, pregnant with their son, Nico. Nearby, inside 2 oil tanks, were the remains of Bella and Celeste. The horror of what he had done was almost beyond comprehension. The man who once smiled beside his wife in family photos had murdered them all, and then gone to work like nothing happened. The world recoiled in disbelief. The same man who'd begged for their return on TV had already disposed of them. His neighbors, his friends, even his mistress, none could comprehend how the quiet, polite man from next door could hide such evil behind his eyes. Inside the interrogation room, Chris finally confessed. His voice was low, his face pale. He told them he'd strangled Shanann and in their bed, then smothered his daughters in the back seat of his truck before hiding their bodies. The truth, when spoken aloud, shattered the last illusion of innocence. The small Colorado town that once knew the Watts family as ordinary was now haunted by the unimaginable. Candlelight vigils turned into tearful memorials. The house on Saratoga Trail became a symbol of betrayal, a reminder that monsters don't always live in the dark. Sometimes, they share your last name. As Chris Watts was led away in handcuffs, the cameras flashed. The mask was gone. All that remained was a hollow man who had destroyed everything he claimed to love. But this wasn't the end of the story, because what awaited him behind bars would become its own kind of punishment. A slow, lonely descent into silence, watched by a world that refused to forget. Behind the heavy steel doors of Dodge Correctional Institution, Chris Watts began the rest of his life. A life without freedom, without family, and without forgiveness. Days blended into each other like a loop of regret. Every sound echoed off the concrete, the clank of a cell door, the shuffle of chains, the whispers of inmates who knew exactly who he was in prison. Chris was not just another murderer. He was the man who killed his wife and daughters. The kind of crime even other inmates despised. Guards kept him isolated for his own safety. Rumors spread that he had been threatened, attacked, even targeted by other prisoners who couldn't stand the thought of what he'd done. He spends most days in silence, reading his Bible, writing letters no one reads, and working simple prison jobs to pass the time. His world has shrunk to the size of a cell, yet his guilt fills every inch of it. He has no pictures on his walls, just verses, prayers, and the ghosts of the family he destroyed. Occasionally, he's written to reporters, claiming he's found God and seeking redemption. But to the families of Shanann and Bella, Celeste, and baby Nico, there's no redemption that can undo what he did. Shanann's parents have said that forgiveness isn't possible, not for the man who wiped out their world. Outside those prison walls, people still visit his story, through documentaries, interviews, and online forums. Some wonder if he truly feels remorse. Others believe his calmness is just another mask, the same one he wore the morning he begged for their return. Inside, the days are long and unchanging. No laughter, no family, just the echo of what used to be. The man who once wanted a new life found himself trapped in one far darker. A life defined by walls, whispers, and the weight of truth. Every night, he prays aloud, but the silence after is louder. Because no matter how many times he asks for forgiveness, no voice answers back. Chris Watts lives today in the same place where time stands still, a man haunted by every breath he takes, by the memories of those tiny faces that will never grow up, and somewhere in the quiet, maybe he finally understands what it means to live in the darkness he created. Behind every smile, behind every perfect picture, sometimes lies something unthinkable. The Watts family tragedy reminds us how darkness can hide behind ordinary walls, and how evil doesn't always come from strangers. If you found this story haunting, like, share, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box, where we uncover the hidden truths behind the world's darkest crimes. Now I'll leave you with one question. If a person can destroy everything they love for a moment of selfish desire, can they ever truly be human again?